Hi guys, and welcome to this episode of the Happy Knitting Podcast. My name is Julia and I'm coming to you as always from the south of Germany, from Munich. Today is a Thursday. Whatever happened to recording during the week? Today is Thursday, the 12th of December 2019. And yes, I am recording this on my lunch break, so I'm basically starving myself for you. I hope you guys appreciate it. I will have some lunch later. This is a knitting podcast. If you're watching for the very first time, welcome. I really hope that you will enjoy this podcast and maybe you'll become a regular viewer. Who knows? Maybe not. If not, that's absolutely fine. There are so many podcasts out there to choose from. And of course, if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back and being one of the regulars. I really appreciate those of you who come back every week or so. And especially, of course, I have to say a massive thank you to all of you who always write nice comments. I often don't have the time to reply to each and every one of you, but I do read all of the comments and I do really appreciate them. And please know if I give it a little heart, it definitely means that I'm just so grateful for that as well. So, what should we talk about today? First of all, we did the sweater episode last week and that was really fun. Thank you so much for your feedback for that. And I did that for the first time as like a premiere thing. So it had a countdown, and when the episode actually aired, we had this live chat, which I had no idea about this function, but I thought it was really fun. So thanks to everyone. I'm just thanking everyone now who was there when we chatted, and I think I will do that again in the future. I think sometimes I just end up recording on the weekends anyways, and I can just schedule it for a few hours later that day if I know I'll be around. So if you missed it, don't worry, we will probably do it again at some point. But yeah, because I did that sweater episode, I decided to give myself off regarding the regular podcast, and therefore I am back today with a ton of stuff to show you. So without further ado, let's talk about some finished objects, followed by some works in progress, some spinning, and some acquisitions. And because it is a weekday, my work phone may go off, and if it does, I may or not have to go and answer. So just a warning in advance. Also, I am terribly low on caffeine today. I slept so badly last night and then had blood drawn this morning, and I have a bit of a headache. So if I am a little bit off, then that is why. And trust me, as soon as we're done with this, I will have some more coffee. Alright, let's talk about some finished objects. Should we talk about the elephant in the room first? I am wearing it, you guys. I finished my red sweater and I love it so much. If you don't know, this is a sweater I've been knitting on for quite a while, and I wanted it to be done for Christmas because it's just this beautiful, bright Christmas red. And this is what it looks like. It has like a high-low hem, so I just made that up. That is not in the pattern. But yeah, it's a fitted red sweater with like 3/4 length sleeves. I kind of made it more like a loose top / shirt fit. I borrowed the instructions from the Robin sweater by Jose Peca. But I only really used them for cast on numbers and the neckline, and then I basically just modified the entire thing from there. So I'm sorry, I don't have a proper pattern to reference except for the neckline part. But I just love how it came out. I love it so much. The yarn that I used is this yarn. It's Madeline Tosh Merino Light in the Blood Runs Cold colorway. And I just love it. It's coming across a little bit too bright on the screen. It's this beautiful, it's a very bright red, but it's also like a just hint of burgundy in it, and I love it. I alternated throughout the entire thing. I used less than 3 skeins. And yeah, I love it. I basically put it on as soon as I finished it. The only slight mishap that I had was, of course, I blocked this and I washed it, and it's red yarn and it's Madeline Tosh, so it bled like crazy, which is not a problem because I'm not planning on ever washing this with anything else. But then I wore it with a white shirt underneath, and in certain areas my white shirt is now red, and I think it is ruined. which is not a terrible thing. I'm thinking about making some t-shirt yarn out of it and maybe doing like a face scrubby thing. But that means I need to be careful with what I wear underneath this sweater, because there are some shirts that I don't want to ruin. So that's a little bit of a bummer, but oh well, I still love the sweater and it's just so deliciously soft. I love it. Love it so much. I think it turned out pretty well in terms of the fit. I really enjoyed making it. It was a very mindless knit in times when I needed something mindless, and now it is done. And is that the only finished object? No, it isn't. In fact, we have so many more FOs to talk about. First up, I finished some socks. I kitchenered these this morning before work. These are my Knit Picks Felici socks. Still haven't decided if they're going to be for me or gifts, but they may be for myself. As you can see, it's a self-strapping yarn. I made them to match, and I did a 3x1 rib across both the leg and the top of the foot to make them kind of stretchy, and just because I really like 3x1 rib socks at the moment, which you will see more of in a second. This is Knit Picks Felici in the Ever After colorway, which I got sent by a lovely friend. So they're done. I did my usual formula of 64 stitches over 2.25 millimeter US size 1 needles. And the lighting is kind of going, it's very dark and gloomy today, so that may influence the quality of this recording, so I'm very sorry about that, but such is life. Also, before I keep going about finished objects and works in progress and such, just a quick reminder that I do always have pretty good project pages on Ravelry. So if you have any questions as to what pattern, what colorway, what needle size, all those things can be found in my project pages, which I will always link right underneath this video. So maybe just as a heads up before anyone starts asking questions, which is fine, of course, but yeah. The resource is right there, and sometimes it's much quicker for you guys to look it up than to ask me. All right, on the topic of finished socks, I also finished Kai's Christmas socks. So these are his secret Christmas socks, which I will wrap right after finishing this podcast. Again, I did 3x1 ribbed socks. Again, I did 64 stitches because this yarn is just a tiny bit thicker. And I love how they pull, how they came out. I think Kai will absolutely love these. And the yarn for this is Wollmeise Twin. And I love Wollmeise yarn for socks for Kai especially because they're just so durable and they just fit him really well. And I think it's just a workhorse yarn that is soft and gorgeous colors, but it still holds up really, really well. So this is the Danny colorway, and what else can I say? I knit a 44 European men's size because that's the shoe size that Kai has. They're done and I love them. Next up, as a last finished object, is something I almost forgot to show you because I've been wearing it so much already. And these are my Effie mittens. So the Effie mitten pattern is by Ellie of Skandir. I turned them into not convertible mitts, fingerless mitts. And again, details as to how I did that can be found in my project page. But they are done and I've basically been wearing them all the time ever since finishing these. I knit these out of Römer Lammöl garn. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but it is their lamb's wool, which I got in Oslo last year. Please don't ask me for colorway names. I have no idea. One of them is color 12, the other one I don't know, but it may be in my project pages. But I finished them. I love them. I've basically been wearing them all the time, which explains what happened yesterday. I was out with a friend, took my mittens off, and my engagement ring got caught on a float and got caught really, really badly. I always try so hard to make sure that doesn't happen, but this time it kind of like drew the entire picture apart. So I've been trying to fix it, but it's not really noticeable. You can kind of tell here, this white row. I went in with a needle and I made it to look as pretty as it could, and it's fine. It wears just fine, and I don't really care. I think no one can notice. But it was just That was maybe like my 5th time wearing these. But that's just what happens with mittens. You have hands, you have fingers, you have things on your fingers, and sometimes they get caught in floats. Yeah. So they're done. I love them. I love fingerless mittens. I did like a pretty fingerless mitten picture on my Instagram because these are just the kind of mittens I wear all the time, and so does Kai. So I need to make sure with these ones that he doesn't start wearing them because otherwise I will be out of mittens again. Alright, so those are my finished objects for these last 10 days or so. Next up, let's talk about some works in progress because I have quite a few. I know I'm kind of going through these things pretty fast today, but it's just a lot of stuff to get through, and also I am literally on borrowed time. So yeah, talking about which, my phone just went off, but we will ignore it for now, nothing urgent. Alright, so works in progress. Let's start with the one that you already know, which currently doesn't have any yarn attached to it. This is my second sweater that I had on the needles when we last talked. This is the Otra sweater by Ellie of Skandir again. It's a top-down color work sweater, and you guys, I finished the body and I finished the first sleeve. And I had already started the second sleeve before I finished the body, so I don't have that much more to go on this sweater. This is knit out of a Danish yarn called, what's it called? Garnitsalk Black Hill Wool. I talked about it in the past, so you probably already have heard about this yarn. So I finished the body. I started the second sleeve, and then just because I was getting bored, I decided to put in the neckline, and I put it in, and it's a sort of ribbed neckline that you fold over. I think that's safe to say without giving anything away. And I wasn't too sure how it was going to look on me because I didn't want a neckline that sticks up. So I blocked this thing, which is why it looks really beautiful and it's already like softened up. You can actually kind of tell the difference between, I think up to here I had blocked it, so this part is all soft, and this part hasn't been blocked yet, and it looks a little bit more loosey-goosey, but it will become this super soft, beautiful fabric as soon as I wash it. And so I blocked it out with the neckline, and it looked quite good, and I was like, thank goodness, it'll be fine. But when I put it on, I didn't really like it, so I decided to rip out the neckline. And originally I was going to rip it out to then do like a rolled neckline, sort of like what Hohi does with her boxy sweaters, because I really like that. But I took it off, the neckline, and I tried it on, and it actually looks quite nice just like this, because it's a really wide boat neck anyways. So I'm thinking I might just leave it like that, and if not, I can always add a neckline later, but it just blocked out beautifully, and it doesn't seem to roll or do anything, and it gives it like a light sort of feeling on it. So it looks really good on, I really like it. So yeah, first sleeve is done. I really just need to go in and pick up the second sleeve, and really I could probably finish this pretty quickly. I just need to sit down and do it, and after this very long first sleeve, I just needed a bit of a break. But yeah, progress is being made on this as well, and you may remember when I first started knitting this, I really liked it, but I wasn't sure if I was going to wear this a lot. I wasn't sure about the color, I wasn't sure about this sort of construction with the steeked armholes. And you know what, the more I try it on, the more I really, really like it. So I think I'm going to make more of these sweaters and make them more oversized as well, because I think this is something that will really suit me, and I don't know, I just really like it. I've also already bought Ellie's other sweater with a similar construction, which is the Icelander or Islander. So that has all over color work, but I think it's pretty repetitive and kind of a similar idea in terms of fit and styling. So I totally want to make that too. So yeah, that is my sweater progress. You can tell I've been doing quite a lot of knitting, haven't I? And now we have a ton of new cast-ons, which is much more exciting. So first up, yes, I know I have a shawl on the needles, but I needed to cast on another one. And I chose some stash yarn to cast on with. This is yarn from Wollmeise that I got when I was there last summer, and I wanted to knit with it because I'm going there again on Saturday and I'm just counting the days and I cannot wait. So this is one of their Nobody is Perfect skeins in their pure colorway. These are discounted because there are knots in them, which I don't care. I will just weave in a couple more ends. And this is the colorway Chic. And I have 2 of these, and then I had quite a collection of mini skeins, which I think they called Birdies, also by Wollmeise. So I decided to cake up a couple of mini skeins that went together well, sort of in this color palette, and use the other yarn as my main color. Originally I got these to do a colorwork sweater, but I wasn't really sure if this was a sweater that I really wanted to wear. Like, this is a very bluish, almost purplish gray, and I don't know, I love the colors together, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to have a sweater out of it. So I decided to instead make a huge blanket shawl, and I couldn't be happier with this decision. I just felt like doing some kind of Stephen West scrappy project. I don't know, I was just inspired. So I went for one of his designs, which I don't really know why it isn't more popular because it's really awesome. I don't know, maybe it just went under the radar. I really like it. This is called the Cozy Corner Shawl, and it starts with one end and then you kind of increase on both sides. So it's a really cool shape. I can't really show it to you too well because I'm not too far on it yet, but it kind of flares out at the bottom, and this is going to be the top edge. And I really like it. It's just a ton of garter stitch, and every now and then you kind of change the increases and decreases, so it's not super boring, but at the same time it's kind of mindless, and I've really been enjoying it so far. As you can tell, there's like a striped version, and then there's a version that he did where he just randomly striped in other colors, which is exactly what I'm doing. So there's no like system to this. I'm just putting in stripes whenever I feel like putting in a stripe, and yeah, I think this is going to be an amazing shawl blanket. I can't wait to finish this. I'm far from finished, but this is just something that I just really wanted to happen, and there's a lot of ends to weave in. I've already woven in most of the ones so far. And yeah, I'm just really enjoying it. I'm not really sure why, but I love it. I'm using 3.5 millimeter needles, which is smaller than what Steven suggests, but I wanted a rather tight sort of garter stitch, and I can basically just keep going as long as I want with this shawl. It's not one of those patterns where you have to follow very, very strictly. And I don't know why, I tend to always mess up the simple patterns. So with this one, I always have the wrong stitch count. And this happens to me very rarely, but with this one, I'm always getting wrong stitch counts. But at this point, I just don't care. It's going to be scrappy, and if the things don't align perfectly and some wedges are a little bit wider than the other ones, I mean, I really don't care. So I'm just having fun with this. And I haven't been working a ton on this, so I'm not sure if this is going to be a project that's going to be finished very soon. But I've really been enjoying it, and it feels good to also be using some of my Wollmeise yarn instead of just stashing it. So that is one project that I've cast on. There are 2 more. First up, there was one last Christmas knit that I needed to do. So I needed to do Kai's socks, and then I also needed to do socks for my sister. So Pauline, if you're watching, turn it off. But I doubt that she would be watching. But my sister, she requested some Mercury socks, which I think is a pattern by Kim Drotar. If it's not, I'm sorry. But it's a free pattern that was all the rage a couple of, maybe even years ago. I think 2 years ago, maybe. It's a lacy sock, it's a lacy sock pattern, and I knit her a pair a while ago, and she really liked it. I don't really enjoy the process of this lace, not because there's anything wrong with it, but just because it's kind of fiddly and tight to me, and I'm not really enjoying it. But she really wanted another pair. So who am I to say no? So I am knitting her Mercury socks out of the yarn that she requested. I got this for her last Christmas. And thankfully I finished the first sock. Thankfully she has small feet, and I have just turned the heel on the second sock. So this is definitely a product knit. Both the yarn and the pattern and the fact that it is Christmas knitting, it's not something that is hugely fun to me, but I know she really wants these socks, and I think it's actually a pretty good combination in terms of yarn and project too. So I love this burgundy color, and this is some yarn by Regia in their glitter base. So it's called Regia Soft Glitter colorway 45. I don't knit a lot with like commercial sparkly yarns, but this is quite nice, and I think it's going to make a very nice Christmas gift for her. So because she has smaller feet, I cast on 60 stitches on 2.25 millimeter needles, which I think is also what the pattern suggests. So that worked out pretty well. I did a fish lips kiss heel, which I do on all of my socks if I haven't mentioned that. And yeah, they should be done very soon. And then yesterday I went out with a friend, but Kai was out longer because he had his office Christmas party. So I decided, based on that fact and the fact that it is finally getting very cold here and I'm hoping for snow today, I decided to cast on something that I only got very recently, but which just makes sense to make now. And that is the Speed Sheep Mittens. So you may remember, and part of my stash just fell from its shelf. And you may remember quite recently I got some yarn to make, I should say I got the kit for the Speed Sheep. The Speed Sheep is a pattern by Ducati, who is a German designer, and she partnered up with Daniel, who provided the yarn. And it's a very, very thick and speedy mitten. So this is the yarn that I got. I think it's like 180 meters per 100 gram. And this is pure German non-superwash merino yarn, which I really love. It's very sheepy, it's very durable, in a natural color. So yesterday I decided, let's figure this out. And the funny thing is that this is in German. I think the pattern has been translated now, so I think you can get it in English on Ravelry. And I haven't knit from a German instruction for years. And I really haven't knit much in terms of German patterns ever. So that was a challenge for me there, but I worked it out and it's perfectly written, of course. And this is Speed Sheep number 1. So this is a really fun pattern. It works up really fast. The only problem I had with it is because you look using thick yarn and thick needles, this is kind of hard on my hands. So that's the only reason why I'm not super speedy on these. But once I got the pattern kind of in my head and didn't have to look at the pattern all the time, this became really fun, and it is quite a fast pattern. I will say there is a lot of purling, so if you don't like purling, this may not be the mitten for you, but the construction and everything, like every last detail of this, is pretty genius. So I really, really like it. I went down 2 needle sizes. I went down from a 4.5 millimeter needle to a 4 millimeter. I didn't swatch because why swatch? But it fits perfectly. So this is mitten number 1. I need to make a choice if I'm going to make it into a proper mitten or if I'm going to make it fingerless. But I think these will be proper mittens because it's such a thick yarn, and these would be amazing for like proper snow winter hikes and stuff. So I really like these, and I originally thought I would make a couple of these and make them as Christmas gifts. I'm not sure if I have that dedication anymore because I'd rather knit socks for someone than a mitten because this is just hard on my hands to knit. But yeah, this is where we are with that. I really like it. It's fun to do something different. You know me, I don't knit that many mittens. I also barely knit with thicker yarn. I never knit from German patterns. So this was just a fun thing that is a little bit different. And again, it goes pretty fast because the yarn is like, what is that, Aran weight at least. So it's a pretty bulky yarn, and I love the sheepiness of it. So yeah, that is my first speed sheep mitten. I'd like to get this finished tonight. Who knows if it'll happen, but that's the idea anyways, because really I need this now. If I finish these in March, they will just be sitting in my cupboard and I will probably forget about them, but for winter and like our winter holiday and stuff, it would be really good to have these. All right. So that's it for my knitting. Very, very briefly, I'm going to go into spinning for a second. Don't worry if you're not into spinning, this won't take very long. First up, I sold my Bliss wheel, which thankfully it was adopted by a good friend of mine, so I can still come and visit it every now and then. But the last thing that I spun on it, mostly to just clear some bobbins that had some singles on them, was this little skein. This is 100% merino yarn, and I just did a chain ply, and it came out so beautifully. It made the saying goodbye to my wheel part so much more difficult because this just turned into such a beautiful springy yarn, and I really like it. But this is just a little sample that I spun. And then I finally finished off a project that I had on my e-spinner, which I still have for a long time, and this is only one skein. I had 200 grams, but I just wasn't really enjoying the process, even though the yarn came out absolutely beautifully. So I decided to stop after 100 grams. Alright, so the postman came and, well, really, I don't know what I was talking about, but I know I was talking about this yarn. This was from a fiber club from Hilltop Cloud, who is in the UK. I joined for a couple of months, and this was a 25% Tassa silk, 25% Polworth, and 50% 18.5 micron merino blend, which is beautiful. It's a beautiful fiber content, and it was a dream to spin. I don't know why I wasn't feeling it, to be honest. I think I love soft things and I love certain blends, but sometimes I prefer spinning like proper woolly wool more than this. And I never really enjoy spinning with silk for some reason. I can do it now. It used to be more difficult for me because silk is very slippery, I would say, but I don't know why. Anyways, I keep talking about this. I decided to two-ply this yarn, so it's a beautiful, very soft, low twist two-ply yarn. Both the singles and the plying was just done very, very gently. I even thought about leaving it as a singles yarn, and this turned into the softest skein ever. This is about a DK weight yarn, and it's going to be a hat. And this would be a perfect hat for Kai because this is very, very soft. I would kind of describe this similar to the Woolfolk yarn that I knit him a hat out of, except that this is thicker. So this would be the perfect hat for him as a second hat for when it's really cold, but he doesn't want it. So what I'm going to do is I will knit this into a hat for me, and then he will just steal it from me anyways. So if he doesn't, I'll have a beautiful hat, but I'm counting on him to, once he sees it finished, he will steal it from me. So that's what that's going to be. I'm going to make it very simple, so probably just a folded brim. I have a couple of hats actually that I want to knit. I just need to actually sit down and do them. And again, now would be the time to do it. But yeah, I can only knit so many things. So that's that is what I have been spinning. Sorry. This is the disadvantage of recording during the week. I just have a little bit less brain space and things are happening all around me, and it is making it a little bit harder to focus. But I'm sure you guys won't mind. Alright, so that's my knitting and spinning for these last 10 days, and I did also get a little bit of yarn. I will admit I fell down the Black Friday rabbit hole a little bit, but I'm proud to say I only really got things that I always knew I was going to get. I was just waiting for Black Friday. So I feel less bad about it, and kudos to all of you who stayed away from Black Friday sales. Those of you who decided to not support that, you definitely have a point there, and I think we definitely do have to be mindful about the amount of stuff that we really need. Anyways, I got some yarn that I've been wanting for a while, and this is yarn from Hobby, which is spelled with a double I in the end. And again, because I keep saying it and it keeps on being true, I'm not sponsored by anything that I talk about, neither the yarn companies nor the designers nor whatever. I just talk about the stuff that I get with my own money. Anyways, they have a Highland wool, which is about a sport weight yarn, I think. It's 175 meters per 50 grams, and it's a non-superwash yarn. And it's a really affordable yarn, and I do like trying affordable yarns because I think it's important, or at least to me personally, I don't always want to spend a ton of money on my sweaters, and also I think it's important to showcase that you don't always need like fancy yarn. And this is me saying this, this is probably one of the most expensive sweaters that I have because it used 3 skeins of indie dyed yarn. But most of the garments that I knit, like for example the Otra sweater, are knit out of very woolly yarns that are like a couple of bucks per 100 grams. Like this entire sweater probably costs me about, I don't know, 12 euros, 15 euros. I have no idea exactly, but you get the point. Anyway, so I decided to give this yarn a try. I will say I was a little bit disappointed when it arrived because the colors just looked more, I don't want to say different because they always look different on the screen. That's just a matter of buying stuff online in different screen settings. But some of this yarn looked more different than I expected. So I was a little bit disappointed at first in terms of the colors that I got. But I do like it now. I got a whole sweater quantity in this red, which is color 32. It's kind of blowing out. It's more of a darker red, more like that. It's beautiful. And then I also got a gray sweater quantity. I don't think I brought a skein over, but it's just a light gray. And again, it looked really beautifully heathered in the pictures, and then in real life it's just kind of gray. But that's what happens. And then I also got a couple of single balls. These are all 50-gram balls. So I can do some color work either with the gray yarn or just gifts, mittens, all these sorts of things. Or if I don't want another red sweater because maybe I already have one, I can combine them in some way. So yeah, that's my acquisition for this week. I will let you know how I feel about this yarn. I already have some of I think they have an organic fingering weight as well. And I have that for a certain project, which now I don't want to knit anymore. So I need to figure out what to do with that. And I'm just really curious about these yarns. I just need to get around to knit with these. But I think it's a good alternative because the only real sort of affordable yarn that we get here in Europe that I would compare to that is drops. And there are some mixed opinions about drops and their practices when it comes to patterns. So I won't go into detail, but I don't necessarily always want to support them. So I think it's cool to have another alternative. And Hobby, they have a lot of like acrylic stuff and they have a lot of cotton, which you can do. Like, I'm not saying don't use acrylics, you're a bad knitter if you use acrylics, whatever. They just have a lot of stuff that I'm not really interested in personally. But I am interested in their pure wools, their non-superwash wools, and they have quite a few organic options, which I think is really cool. All right, so that's what I have for you in terms of acquisitions. And I think my lunch break is about to be up as well. So I just want to check in with you guys and show you some knitting. I really, really hope that you enjoyed this podcast episode, even though possibly it was quite full of stuff and maybe usually I have like 5% more focus, but what are you going to do? So excitingly, what will be happening is my trip to Wollmeise with Marion, and oh my gosh, I am so ready for it. I am so excited for that. So that will mean that once I get back, I'm not sure if I'm going to record again on the weekend, probably not. But soon I get to show you some Wollmeise yarn because I really do want to get more of their sock yarn because, like I said, it is just so fantastic for socks for Kai, and maybe I also want some socks for myself. So I'm mainly going there for the sock yarn. Of course, you never know what will happen. But yeah, that's the plan. So I think I'm just going to leave you with that. Thank you so much for watching today, and I will see you very soon. I will definitely be recording again before Christmas. Yes, there it is, the C word. And until then, I just hope you have a good week. If you're into like the holidays, if you're celebrating Christmas, Advent, whatever, I hope you're enjoying that. And I will see you very, very soon. Thank you for watching. Bye!